Hey everyone, welcome to episode 54. Today we will be reading John 11. Sorry, so yesterday when I tried to upload the video, so I was gonna mention that my audio wasn't working for my microphone, so I had had to use the speaker from my mom's phone. So yeah, so my audio wasn't working yesterday. So I'm gonna try to speak up today to see if you can hear me. And if not, I'll redo it tomorrow. Okay, let's get started. Now a man was sick, Lazarus from Bethany, the village of Mary, and her sister Martha. Mary was the one who anointed the Lord with perfume and wiped his feet with her hair. And it was her brother, Lazarus, who was sick. So the sisters sent a message to him, Lord, the one you love is sick. When Jesus heard it, he said, This sickness will not end in death, but is for the glory of God, so that the Son of God may be glorified through it. Now Jesus loved Martha, her sister, and Lazarus. So when he heard that he was sick, he stayed 2 more days in the place where he was. Then after that, he said to the disciples, Let go of Judea again. Rabbi, the disciples told him, just now the Jews tried to stone you, and you're going there again? Aren't there 12 hours in a day? Jesus answered, If anyone walks during the day, he doesn't stumble, because he sees the light of this world. But if anyone walks during the night, he does stumble, because the light is not in him. He said this, and then he told them, Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I'm on my way to wake him up. Then the disciples said to him, Lord, if he has fallen asleep, he will get well. Jesus, however, was speaking about his death, but they thought he was speaking about natural sleep. So Jesus told them about natural sleep. So Jesus told them plainly, Lazarus died. Lazarus has died. I'm glad for you that I wasn't there, so that you may believe. But let's go to him. Then the disciples called twin said to his fellow disciples, Let's go to so that we may die with him. When Jesus arrived, he found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. Bethany, was near Jerusalem, was less than 2 miles away. Many of the Jews had come to Martha and Mary to comfort them about their brother. As soon as Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went to meet him, but Mary remained seated in the house. Then Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been there, my brother wouldn't have died. Yet even now I know that whatever you ask from God, God will give you. Your brother will rise again, Jesus told her. Martha said to him, I know that he will rise again in the resurrection at the last day. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me, even if he dies, will live. Everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this? Yes, Lord, she told him. I believe you are the Messiah, the Son of God, who comes into the world. Having said this, she went back and called her sister, Mary, saying in private, The teacher is here and is calling for you. As soon as Mary heard this, she got up quickly and went to him. Jesus had not yet come into the village, but was still in the place where Martha had met him. The Jews who were with her in the house, consoling consoling her, saw that Mary got up quickly and went out. They followed her, supposing that she was going to the tomb to cry there. As soon as Mary came to where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet and told him, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." When Jesus saw her crying, and the Jews who had come with her crying, he was deeply moved, in his spirit and troubled. Where have you put him?" he asked. "Lord," they told him, "come and see." Jesus wept. So the Jews said, "See how he loved him." But some of them said, "Couldn't he who opened the blind man's eyes also have kept this man from dying?" Then Jesus, deeply moved again, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone was lying against it. "Remove the stone," Jesus said. Martha, the dead man's sister, told him, "Lord, there is already a stench because he had been dead for 4 days." Jesus said to her, "Didn't I tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God?" So they removed the stone. Then Jesus raised his eyes and said, "Father, I thank you that you heard me, and I know you always hear me. But because the crowd standing here, I said this, so that they may believe you sent me." After he said this, he shouted with a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out!" The dead man came out, bound hand and foot, with linen strips, and with his face wrapped in cloth. Jesus said to them, "Unwrap him and let him go." Therefore many of the Jews who came to Mary and saw what he did believed in him. But some of them went to the Pharisees and told them what Jesus had done. So the chief priests and the Pharisees convened the Sanhedrin, and we're saying, "What are we going to do since this man is doing many signs? We let him go on like this, everyone will believe in him. Like the Romans will come and take away most our place in our nation." One of them, Caiaphas, who has high priest that year, you said to them, "You know nothing at all. You're not considering that it is to your advantage that one man should die for the people rather than the whole nation perish." He did not say this on his own, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus was going to die for the nation, and not for the nation only, but also to unite the scattered children of God. So from that day on, they plotted to kill him. Jesus therefore no longer walked openly among the Jews, but departed from there to the countryside, near the wilderness, to a town called Ephraim. He stayed there with the disciples. Now the Jewish Passover was near, and many went up to Jerusalem from the country to purify themselves before the Passover. They were looking for Jesus and asking one another, as they stood in the temple, "What do you think? He won't come to the festival, will he?" The chief priests and the Pharisees had given orders that if anyone knew where he was, he should report it so that they could arrest him. Reflection. Resurrection. We didn't know what to expect. As we turned the lock on our home for the last time that sweltering August afternoon in Homestead, Florida, we'd been ordered to evacuate and drive as far inland as we could. The expanding hurricane was headed straight for us. Weather reporters made the ominous predictions. Prepare for the worst. That night we dozed. the noise from the storm keeping us on edge and restless. After a stifling night with the windows shuttered and the power out, we emerged in the morning light to expect the damage. Thankfully, our sanctuary home, my mother's own childhood home, had fared well enough during the Category 5 hurricane. The damage was minimal, nothing that could be patched up or that wouldn't grow back in time. While my granddaddy's house and yard had survived the storm, our home 20 miles south sat in a field of rubble that hours earlier had been our neighborhood. We walked the door when we left. We walked the door when we left, but there had been no need. The house sat hollowed out like a shell, without windows and doors and numerous holes punched in the roof. We lost nearly everything we owned, down to the bare walls. The loss overwhelmed us. In the days that we followed, we struggled to put words around the experience. With only a small suitcase of clothes instead of a home to return, we slowly absorbed this shock. Life as we knew it died that night in the storm, uprooted it in every sense of the word. We left the shadow of our home behind us, moving north to a new home in a new state. Before the hurricane turned our lives upside down, our faith was nominal at best. No, we attended church regularly. We lacked any relationship with Jesus. We knew about him, but we didn't know him. Before the hurricane, our hopes hung on the flimsy strands of materialism, and human ability. We don't know there was a person who could hold our hopes steady in the midst of our life's storms. For months, we whispered our questions to the wind. Why had God allowed such a thing? Why did we have to endure such a heavy loss? God could have intervened. He could have shifted the winds. We had our questions, but at the time, we weren't close enough to God to hear the answers. We wandered in our grief. Mary and Martha knew these questions. They lived a similar grief. Reading the story of Lazarus, I'm struck by the fact that Jesus deliberately way to go to his friend, even as he knew that Lazarus lay sick and dying. It was an odd move for the Son of God, who among us hasn't been stunned by God's allowance of suffering. Before we can be too licensed by this calculated move, Jesus states his purpose in delaying his trip for the glory of God, so that the Son of God may be glorified through it. The disciples didn't understand it. Certainly, Mary and Martha couldn't see it. God used the death of his beloved friend Lazarus for his glory and for the benefit of others. When Jesus returned to Judea, he appeared to be 4 days too late. Lazarus was dead. How often do we feel as if Jesus had waited too long to come to us? How hard is it for us to hope when all seems utterly lost? But Martha knew Jesus. When he arrived, she said to him, "Even now I know that whatever you ask from God, God will give you." She hoped for the best possible outcome, despite the apparent finality of this situation. Moved by the palpable grief of Mary, Martha, and the entire town, Jesus joined their grief and wept. Jesus entered into the lament and mourning of his friends. Christ's empathy, His solidarity with the hurting people of Judea is for us, here now as well. This is how we know he loves us, even when tragedy cuts us to the core of our souls. As he did with Mary and Martha, Jesus feels our pain and weeps when we weep. God is not as a God far away. Standing at the tomb, Jesus publicly thanked God for hearing his prayers. This experience will not be wasted. After giving thanks, Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead. 4 days in the grave will not stand in the way of God's mighty miracle. Lazarus' resurrection encourages us to keep hoping even in the dark. Jesus used this miracle to draw others to himself. So too it is worth our suffering. After the hurricane, we settled into a new church family that forever altered the course of our lives. In this church, we came to know Jesus intimately, and during the depths of the life we had known, cleared the way for us to discover a different one, losing very things we held most dear. We found the treasure we didn't know we lacked resurrection, new life. Lazarus' story reminds us that God is always beneath the surface of our human experience. Though we may not see it, though we may grieve and suffer loss, God is not only aware of our pain, but feels our pain intimately. Weeping when we weep, whatever storms and tragedy befall us, we put our hope in Christ, the resurrection and the life. In triumph and tragedy alike, we can follow Jesus' example. We thank God for hearing us, and we trust that he will redeem what has been lost, all for his glory, if not in this life, most assuredly in the next. The end. Be blessed and be a blessing to others.